I'd like to call to order a meeting of the Greenwood Advisory Plan Commission, dated June 9th, 2025 at 7 o'clock. First item in the agenda is the approval of the minutes from May 28th, 2025. Is there a motion?
I'll move to approve the minutes.
We have a motion by Mr. Lexi,
I'll second that.
and we have a second by Mr. Probst. Is there any discussion about the minutes before we take a vote? Seeing none, all those in favor, please show by raising a hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 9-0. Next on the agenda is special requests and continuances. I see none. Then there's the findings of fact. And again, I see none. Next item on business is old business. PC 2025-007, the Davis Homes Community Change in Commitments. Petitioner is Eric Prime on behalf of Davis Homes, LLC. This is a public hearing. We'll allow 15 minutes for the petitioner and then 15 minutes for any remonstrators, followed by a 5-minute rebuttal by the petitioner and a 5-minute period for the remonstrators for closing remarks. Can you please state your name and address?
Yes, sir. Eric Prime, Bay Baker Law Firm, 225 South Emerson, Greenwood, on behalf of the petitioner Davis Homes, LLC. As the board may recall, we were here 2 months ago on the same topic.
I'm sorry, this is a public hearing. You'll need to be sworn in.
Do you swear on the perjury, testimony to the best of your knowledge?
Oh, sorry.
Also, swear.
Yes,
Okay.
I do.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I know it's a continued hearing, and you were administered the oath several meetings ago, but just in case anyone else, we thought it would be prudent to do it
I
again.
feel like you're well, again, for the record, Eric Prime, Bay Baker, on behalf of Davis Homes, LLC. We were here 2 months ago on this issue. It's the change of a written commitment that was entered into by a previous developer who was unable to follow through on the project. Davis has picked up the ground under contract and is intending to put in a combination of rear load townhomes and duplexes that will be for sale. Whereas the older development was an actual all rental development. So that's the biggest switch. The commitment that we're talking about here, let me hit you first with the outline square in light blue there. A little hard to see at this distance, but that's the parcel that we're talking about. It's on Combs Road, on the west side of Combs, south of county line, north of the main, and just north of the fairly recently installed S-curve that is on Combs now, so just north of that. This is actually, I believe, an older version of the plan, it looks like, but at any rate, it's the concept plan is in general like this, except that around the outside will be the townhomes now, and the duplexes will be concentrated in the middle, but not necessarily super important for our situation tonight. What we're concentrating on is 1B, item 1B of the commitments, and it says Combs Road shall be reconstructed to meet standards connecting south to the newly constructed Combs Road S-curve. These improvements shall be inclusive of pedestrian facilities, sidewalk. At the time, Pride 1 did not have any ground. Let me go back to the previous slide. Pride 1 had this same parcel under contract. So it only goes so far south. It does not go all the way to the S-curve. It stops north of a private home that is right on Combs Road, right at the hill, and does not go any further south. There's a 300-foot gap between the south property line of this parcel and the end of the new S-curve work. And that 300-foot gap is completely within the county, in the county's jurisdiction. It has not been annexed. This parcel, obviously, because we're here in front of you, was annexed into Greenwood and rezoned. So the conundrum with this commitment is what was meant by meet the standards connecting south. Well, taken literally, the connecting south portion is a 2-lane county road, right? The portion connecting south from our property line is still 2-lane old Combs Road. Surely that's not what was meant, but those were the standards that we were supposed to adhere to. The standards they were talking about were the reconstructed standards further south in the S curve. And there's a reason why, if you go back again to this, you can see at the very bottom right-hand corner of this, oh, nice. You can see the two sidewalks coming up on either side of Combs Road, and you can see the widened Combs Road. And you can also, if you just draw those in your head going further north, the eastern sidewalk is going to go off into the woods by about 20 yards. The western sidewalk is going to go across Mr. Roden's front porch as it goes north, and the road bed is going to encroach on both properties on either side if it's widened. So again, there is no way that Dale Davis, who was the planning director at the time who wrote that commitment, meant for us or any developer developing that piece to the north to connect to with the same standards to the S curve. It couldn't be done. It couldn't be done then, and it can't be done now. And the players, as the adjoining property owners, have not changed. It's all the same folks. And they've been approached multiple times to find out whether or not they're interested in granting either permanent easements that would allow the widening of the road and the installation of the sidewalks, or even a temporary construction easement to allow us to try to get into the existing right-of-way and do at least some widening. And it's a flat no across the board. And I'm going to let Mr. Paul Carroll come up. He's in corporate counsel for Davis. He actually had the face-to-face meeting with the neighbors, and I think it's important to hear from him as to what they had to say, because that's what's being requested.
State your name and address, please.
Paul Carroll, 15 North State Street, Suite 241, Greenfield, Indiana, counsel for Davis Homes. To Eric's point, the last time we met, we had already at that point approached the adjoining neighbors for a permanent easement and were rejected without any sort of counteroffer for the discussion. Just a flat no, no thanks, you can't put a price tag on this. At the last meeting, there was some request that we go back out and talk about temporary easements, what we could do. Of the plans, after that meeting, Davis Homes commissioned Mr. Smith to prepare a couple of potential plans for what could be done to increase safety at that site. The most likely of those plans, I think the only practical plan, was construction of a sidewalk within the existing right-of-way. We already told no thanks for permanent right-of-way expansion. So providing a sidewalk on the west side of Combs Road within the existing right-of-way. Emailed the Rotens on May 14th. They reached out to me on May 15th. We attempted to go through online in a Zoom meeting what that would look like. There was some difficulty there, and Mr. Roden doesn't hear particularly well. She asked me to come out to their house, went out there that same day, met with the Rotens and their daughter, who at least entertained me for about an hour, talking about what that plan would look like, and that the sidewalk would go in the existing right-of-way, would not be taking anything further from the Rotens. Gave me a very firm, but very polite, no thank you. Not interested both in granting any temporary right-of-way, and we did ask for it for free. We proposed restoring all of the site back to its original condition, providing them with a newly repaved driveway, which they indicated they wanted and planned on doing in the future. But still, it was a hard no. During that conversation, Mr. Hiscock, who owns the property to the east of Combs Road, north of the very southern parcel there, walked across the street with his son, and I explained what we were looking to do. Both he and the Rotens said, look, there's a reason we moved out here. We don't want a sidewalk. We're not going to give you any concession that lets you build a sidewalk. Again, very polite, very professional. It was a good conversation, but it was a hard no. We subsequently reached out the next day to the Gates, who own the property to the east of Combs Road, asking again for a temporary right-of-way on the chance that we could construct a sidewalk to the east of Combs Road, propose repairing or restoring and replacing any trees that were damaged during the construction of such a sidewalk. And again, a very polite but very firm no, and with no counteroffer from any of the parties. Glad to answer any questions, but that was summarizing my conversation.
Cash offers were made to all of these folks, right?
The cash offers were made for the permanent easements on each of them. In each case, it was a no, but no counter. For the temporary, where it wouldn't be a taking, we did offer to repair property and reconstruct the driveway. That was a hard no as well.
So that gets us back to kind of square one. We, in addition to doing all of that diligence out at the site, contacting all of those owners, we met with the mayor, deputy mayor, corporation council, staff, presented the 3 plans that our engineer got paid to do to try to at least find a solution here. But the majority of all of those really require at least a temporary construction. We just can't get in there in that thin of an area and do any meaningful work. Even a single 4 or 5 foot wide sidewalk running up the east side that would take up all of the right of way would be immediately adjacent to the roadbed and probably not a safety improvement. Might be no sidewalk would be safer than having a sidewalk and asking people to come through there down the hill right next to the road with a tiny lip of a curb over top. So here we are. If this commitment means what staff says it means, that we have to connect our property to the S-curve over that 300-foot stretch to the same standards as they were south, it's impossible. Absolutely impossible. We can't even get a skinnier road and sidewalks in there. We don't have enough room to do that. And I still put it to you that nobody intended back then in 2021 for there to be an actual connection. It was to meet the standards to the south. Again, for our frontage, from our north property line to our south property line. We squish this down again, you can see what I'm talking about. So all of that north to south in front of our proposed development would be done to the standards to the south, with sidewalks, widened roadbed, the whole 9 yards. That's what the intention was of the commitment. As long as this board feels like that is the intention, we're happy to comply with that. Because we believe that's what was intended, not to do any work in that 300-foot stretch of the county. If the board decides that we have to do work in the 300-foot stretch of the county, I think we've just shown you that's an impossibility. It can't be done. We don't have the right, we're a private developer, we don't have the right to go in and take people's yards away from them or to plunk sidewalks down through their front yard. And if that's the standard, then not only will Davis not be able to develop this ground, nobody will, because these commitments run with the land. So they're permanently tattooed here, and if there's a disagreement over what they mean, we need to figure that out now, or this property sits for eternity. Because nobody will ever be able to develop that 300-foot stretch until and unless all of those people get annexed into the city. And we did try to meet with the county engineer, by the way, I'll just throw this out there because that was also requested. Hey, let's get the county and the city and you guys together, and it really went nowhere. I can show you the email string if you want, but the county engineer wasn't much interested in meeting, didn't think it would be very helpful. His comment was that yesterday, meaning the day before this email, staff did a site distance check in that 300-foot area and found that the allowable site distance would warrant a hill blocks the view sign with an advisory speed placard for 25 miles an hour. So that's the county's suggestion on how to make that area safer. But there was no plan of how we were supposed to get into the right of way and do any meaningful work from the county, nor from the city. So it kind of puts the developer in a catch-22 if the commitment means what staff says it means, but I don't think it means that. And I think it's pretty obvious from the plain reading of the commitment that it meant to meet the standards. Just hit that one more time, right? Holmes Road should be reconstructed to meet standards connecting south, and that's what we're talking about. And we'll do that from our north property line to south property line in the ground that we control.
Are there any remonstrators? Seeing none, close public hearing. Mr. Nelson, where is staff on this at this point?
Staff really hasn't changed our position much. I do believe that when it said shall be reconstructed to meet standards connecting south to the newly constructed Combs Road, including pedestrian, newly constructed Combs Road S curve, including pedestrian facilities. I do believe that meant connecting. What the word connecting does literally mean. We don't feel like this furthers Greenwood's interest. We have safety concerns about the rise in elevation of the road, and then also the lack of pedestrian facilities. We did receive an email from Michelle, the director of Johnson County Department of Planning and Zoning. She said, "Here is the county's response on the matter. If you need more from us or have any questions, let us know. Johnson County believes at a minimum, the 300-foot section of County Road should be improved to accommodate the additional traffic and connect Combs Road site distance issues and correct the Combs Road site distance issues. We support the need to connect sidewalks as well if it can be agreed upon. We are okay with the commitment as presented." That was the presented modified commitment that I had worked on that I presented last meeting. And then as Eric Prime did mention, we did get a response from Daniel. I will say they had 2 months to coordinate with the county and with our engineering department. I believe we got the email last Wednesday. I could be wrong on that. Daniel did suggest, he asked if the city plans to adjust the speed limit of Combs Road. There would need to be additional conversations with the county and Greenwood since the jurisdiction jumps back and forth. That would also need to go to the Board of Public Works and Safety. He did have some comments on some of the exhibits with some suggestions as well. He said the county supports the city's position regarding the commitments. I'm available to meet tomorrow, Friday, at the same time as Paul, but a meeting may not be needed. So overall, that first line was left out from Eric's presentation. He did say the county supports the city's position regarding commitments. And our position, just to be clear, is that the site issue with the hill should be adjusted and the road should be rebuilt. Daniel, who is the county engineer that emailed that, was actually at the time the Greenwood city engineer when this original commitment was proposed. But yeah, my position has not changed.
And for the record, Daniel is Daniel Johnston.
Correct, Daniel Johnson. I'm sorry, Daniel. These full names.
To be fair, the engineer's first email to Mr. Johnston and Mr. Keone and copy Dave went out on May 28th. There was 0 response for a week. The second email did go out last Wednesday, 4th. And then there was a response to that. So it's not a last minute.
And when did you get this continuance? When did you get this continuance to present this evening? What date? April what?
If you're talking about the timing of those emails, we were
No, I'm
still,
talking about when did you receive the 60-day continuance?
last meeting, April, whatever, April,
I'm looking it up.
And Daniel got an email on May 28th, which you're correct. That's a
after we
week
had
and a
the
half
opportunity to
before
meet
you-
with all of the landowners, after we met with the mayor and staff.
I'm
It all got
stating
done.
fact too.
Yep, I know, we just did
I'm
not with
stating
it
fact,
daily
too.
because we didn't meet with the engineers after we met with everybody else. So
I have a question with regard to the proposed development. Is it gonna be, what kind of housing? No rental, right? Is it gonna be all purchasable condos and or townhomes? Is that what you said, multifamily?
yeah, correct.
Okay.
Rear load townhomes and duplexes.
I am not as educated as most people are here when it comes to this construction stuff. I'm trying really hard to learn it and understand it. From what I understand and what I hear, there's nothing that can be done about the areas that they need easement right now because the people that own that land they're not willing to give it up no matter what they are being offered. I also come from a public health background and a public safety background and all that. So my perspective is there's just not a lot of housing in Greenwood. we have relatively low inventory. It increases the cost of our housing in Johnson County, in Greenwood. We need more people to build in our area. That's where I'm kind of coming from. I want you guys to weigh in and tell me if I'm crazy in thinking that, but I know we need more housing. And that's a great area for it. I'm in that area. So if we could figure this out, because we keep coming back to it, keep continuing it. It sounds like the commitment 1E and 6, the staff are okay with. 1B, we need to fix this S curve, but we can't really do much about easement attainment.
You've already acted on on 6
1E.
and 1E. Those have already been.
Those have been approved.
Right.
Right, so those are not something you have to consider now.
I have a question for the petitioner. What was the position of the mayor and the other people at authority about acquisitioning some more property to build the road out so it would be safe for passage of automobiles, pedestrian sidewalks, and bike trails? Is the city interested in using any kind of their power of eminent domain or to acquisition more easements to put in a finished constructed road?
That's what it's going to take, except I don't think it's the city, because this ground is in the county. The county, I believe, would have to act on the eminent domain, their eminent domain powers to take the ground. But it would take one of the municipalities, either the county or the city, doing that to force these folks to force their hand, because they're not interested. And I really thought they'd either be online or somebody representing the family would be here, but I don't see anybody. Generally, Mr. Hiscock was online. He remonstrated against the Pride One development, and he was online at the last meeting as well. And he did reiterate at the last meeting that he doesn't want a sidewalk in his front yard, and he doesn't want a road in his front yard. To your question, no, there was no specific discussion at that meeting about the city using its eminent domain power. But I think either the city or the county is going to have to do that to get anything done here.
But the city can't use that power because it's not annexed into the city.
Yeah, that's correct. We had to look at that a few months ago, where we can acquire property up to 4 miles outside, but we cannot use eminent domain to acquire it if people do not want to sell it to us. So it'd be the county that would have to do that to acquire the right of way.
So the email that you read gave from Michelle, that's someone in the county.
Yes, that's the Johnson County Planning Director. And
So are we just punting the conversation back and forth between the county and the city to see what we can do? Or do we just feel like, if we deny 1B, just no one can build there? Or,
I guess I would. I've volunteered and asked to be a part of conversations with the homeowners. I know they have raised concerns about the hill and the issue with division. I wish that a lot of these conversations would have been, the city would have been invited to have a spot at the table to advocate. I don't know if there is really interest for the developer to advocate for this, since it doesn't benefit their profit margins. I would say that it could be done with the developer if they're able to acquire temporary easements. They're saying it is impossible to acquire these. I guess.
you're saying it is possible?
I'm not saying that, but I'm saying that I don't think that staff has been provided a transparent enough dialogue to understand if that truly is the case, or if these conversations, the first time they came here, I think they just sent one letter with the dollar amount. I got a letter in the mail with the dollar amount, I probably wouldn't respond to either. So I think it would have been nice to understand when and where and how these conversations were taking place. We were told that they didn't have time to break that down for staff, but they've provided a little bit more detail at this meeting.
I have another question about eminent domain. It's not an evil operation because the city's planning parks department uses it quite often to get their green trails put in areas where they don't have it it's part of the comprehensive master plan and part of the Parks Department's master plan to put trails in. So they use eminent domain a lot, and they go through the process of evaluating the property's value, and then they offer the amount that's justifiable. And that with eminent domain, the petitioner doesn't, or the landowner doesn't have an excuse. They have to kind of go along with the eminent domain requirements. So it's not like impossible, but if the county doesn't want to do it, then that becomes a problem. And then that means maybe should the city annex the property and then have the city use eminent domain to resolve the situation? Because I think that if you had enough easement, you could build the road if you lowered the section, cross-section of the road. So
Yeah.
this is,
Right now-
to me, this is a solvable problem.
Yeah.
It just needs some people to kind of get off the dime and do something about it, meaning government agencies.
Sure, and that, we wouldn't, I guess, I don't know if the county's gonna approach, with the question of eminent domain, but currently it's not in the city of Greenwood.
Can you remind me of the road elevation problem? I understand the sidewalks being disjointed. And that's unsafe because somebody who wants to use the sidewalks might walk on the sidewalks till they end, walk on the road and get back on the. But what's the problem with elevations and roads?
Sure, and I know, Paul may have some more technical background from the engineering, position, and then we do have Daniel, Johnson's email as well that did say that there was, an analysis that the county had done. But basically there is a slope in the road or a hill in the road, when cars are, going north, when you're coming over the hill or over the road, you do not see the driveway, with enough time. And that is why I think the county had mentioned lowering the speed limit as well as putting up a warning sign. It's basically a hidden driveway where you, get over that hill and there may not be enough time to stop for someone who might be leaving that driveway. Paul, I don't know if you have anything else to add.
Well, no, Gabe's got it pretty well. It's based on the speed of the roadway also. And then it's obtained, I believe, from like 1.5 feet above the elevation of the point that you're exiting, like the driveway, and being able to look back so many feet based on the speed limit to see if you can see that car coming up. And on the plans that Projects Plus prepared, they're showing that they probably would have to lower it about 2 feet, I believe.
Right.
Yeah.
Anybody will do that, you have to have ground on either side to either put retaining walls in or put a big paper down, and that's the problem. You can't go anywhere.
Mr. Nelson, everything I've seen shows this road from the S curve straight north. I don't know if it's ever, and I'm not trying to design the thing right here at this meeting, but it seems that one of the major limiting factors is the location of the house. You run the sidewalk right to the front door of the house. If that road were to be shifted to the east and basically, whether it's city, county, whoever, eminent domain, pick up some land on the east side, I think it would be, but the house, I understand that the family that lives there doesn't want to give up any land, doesn't want to give up any trees. For the safety of some kid coming down that street on a bicycle someday, it may be necessary for this project to take a few trees and to move this road, curve it a little bit east so that the house can actually stay there without having a sidewalk going through their front porch. And I don't know if that's been looked at, but it seems like something like that is about the only way that this project can come forward.
Sure, and I think, I think they've been told no, and that's what they've taken. It also brought up, the possibility of giving that home that is close to the road there, access off of Old Combs Road. That is basically an abandoned cul-de-sac that services back there. It does not appear that they
Are interested?
use their garage for the parking of vehicles, so I didn't know if maybe they could provide them with access there, and that could be a part of the negotiation. But again, the city, I don't think was kept up or invited to these conversations about it, and we're relying on what they've reported.
It seems like, I hate to say it, but it seems like further discussion is necessary for approval on this.
I like the fact that moving the road to the east is a pretty applicable option. Also, I went out there with 100-foot tape and taped off the road at the S curves. That's 100-foot right of way, and the sidewalks are up against the right of way, and then you have a 32-foot ditch, grass line ditch before you get to the pavement. So the proposed, the S curves are, it's an arterial street that has sidewalks for people, bike paths on either side of the road, and then the road, which is 24 feet. It's an arterial street, it's pretty wide. And the ditches serve their function, but there's no, you can condense this road cross section by putting in curves behind the roadway. Then you wouldn't have these large grass ditches, and you could taper down the roadway section and make it smaller, going through that tight location, and have an engineer come up with an engineering and option some land some more at the east to make it happen. So I think it needs to happen, because when I was out there pulling 100-foot tape around, taking a look at what's really going on,
Cars were flying through.
cars were coming over that hill and couldn't see them, and they'd come over and they'd be on you. So there is a bit of a sight distance problem at that location.
I seem to recall, and maybe I forgot. Did we solve the east side of the development, that'll be upgraded, the Combs Road? I know at one point there was a question of where the right of way really was gonna fall for that. I think we did solve for that.
Yeah, everything from the north property line to the south property line will be improved with sidewalks and the road widening to match
That, okay.
what's further south.
I just kind of remembered at one point there was some gray area on that,
I
so.
think what you're thinking of is we did have to take a slight jaunt to the west
That's it.
on
Okay.
our property because we couldn't get easements.
Couldn't get easements.
That's
offset
it.
rights
Okay, that's
from
it.
the west on the east side of the roadway adjacent to our property. So all of the improvements will be on our property and including the right.
Well, if I can suggest, if you are wanting more discussion, could you give a directive so the petitioner knows what it is that, more discussion, what information that we want them to provide or to meet with you to discuss if you are going to do more, if there's additional?
I think that if the city would get involved with an annexation and then eminent domain based on absolute minimum needed easement for constructing the road to improve the safety issues on that road, then maybe that's what we need to do. Something the city needs to participate in. Is that possible at the location that it
The
is?
city can't annex without the property owner's consent.
Yeah, that would be a
Because they eliminated involuntary annexation.
And there are specific criteria for that.
we don't need to meet their criteria, nor do I think we would want to annex these people into the city. We are welcome to them if they voluntarily want to annex to come into the city of Greenwood. With these gaps in the road, it can be quite difficult, like we're seeing right now, where you have different roads at different widths with different pedestrian facilities. It's, to me, making this a safety issue, and that is why I think that they should be connected.
Does Daniel Johnson have a thought about how this could be done?
He did have a thought last, I think it was Thursday. He gave them some ideas on maybe how to improve what they already had. But city staff, we haven't had time to talk with the county to discuss those.
Because I mean, really, it would come down to Johnson County and the city to,
Right.
I mean, it sounds like they've done their due diligence. And this is
is tough because this is part of the process, but then how do you move forward? And then I was gonna ask too, there's a home or farm or something here. Who owns this property? I don't know, like,
Gates on the east and Hiscox on the east. Hiscox have it
On the west.
on the east.
Robin.
Oh, you're talking about the actual property
one
to
on-
be developed?
the one on the south of the property.
That's road.
The road.
Okay. That comes off of Old Combs Road. This, live there, go.
All the treed area is Gates except for a small section of that treed area is Hiscox. And then Roden is on the.
I just wondered if there was a way to do a sidewalk, but that still doesn't get the road issue resolved. And the only way to do that is, has to come from the county and the city working together. I don't know how they would just call me and stuff, but I don't know, it kind of comes back to,
Do you start the development and light a fire under it, like, hey,
I mean, I don't
there's a
know.
development coming?
Yeah, I mean,
You could set it up where the city
Yes, I know.
and the county would work it out and get the additional land would be required, and the developer potentially could pay for the improvement. That would take the responsibility of paying for it out of the jurisdiction of the local municipalities and give it back to the developer, and then the municipalities could just, if the property needed to do a condensed section, roadway section.
I mean, I'm with Brian. They've done their due diligence. It's really lighting a fire, frankly, under the county to do something about it.
Yeah, I mean,
I think.
They've come to the city. The city's annexed it. The city, we had a kind of weird commitment. County needs fire lit under them to fix it. Their constituents don't want the city to do anything. Well, something has to be done.
yeah,
I think the city could be advocates for it too, just for the benefit
Yeah.
overall.
and our teams raised a concern, but we don't, you guys
They're-
can't do anything about it.
Their solution is hill blocks view or whatever, you know,
Signage.
signage that works.
Kind of
Is that good enough?
I think what this commission needs to do though is, if everybody agrees that the next move is with the county, then what we need to do is maintain the status quo, leave the commitment in there, which would force these guys to go to the